Thank you so much for joining this lesson. We shall be looking at the final prediction for the Kjsea 2025. So you're most welcome. If you are a new member to Shifting Grades, kindly ensure to subscribe. Ensure to also share so that you may invite a few friends. Let's look at section A, 30 marks. Number 1, a grade 9 learners were discussing the structure of an atom. They concluded that atoms are made of smaller particles known as, so this is under the structure of an atom, and we know that generally the particles making up an atom are called subatomic particles. You're also supposed to know that these subatomic particles are now protons, neutrons, and electrons. So there are 3 of them, 3 subatomic particles. They make up the atom. Number 2, a small central region of an atom that contains the protons and the neutrons is called the nucleus. Actually, both protons and neutrons are called the nucleons because they are found in the nucleus. So the 2 of them are found in the nucleus. Yeah, and the electrons are found in the energy shells surrounding the nucleus. Look at number 3, ladies and gentlemen. Grade 9 learners of Maji Mazuri School visited a Juakali sector in their neighborhood and watched as the arson hammered metals into thin sheets without the metals breaking. This property of metals is called malleability. The ability of metals to be hammered into thin sheets without them breaking is called malleability. Number 4, elements whose outermost energy levels have the maximum number of electrons are known as noble gases. Which of the following is an example of noble gases? Helium. The outermost energy levels are full. They are stable gases. A teacher in number 5 displayed on the chart shown below on the wall during a lesson. The part represented by Z on the symbol above is, when you have a certain atom represented this way, or an element, we usually say that the subscript here is the atomic number, while the superscript is the mass number. Therefore, this is atomic number. Atomic number, the number of protons in the nucleus, the atom. Atomic number is usually the subscript, but the superscript, A, would have been the mass number in case the examiner goes ahead to question you on the same. So that's what number 5. Let's check number 6. Grade 9 learners of the KBA school collected and set up materials as shown below. Which physical property of metals were they investigating? Physical properties of metals. So we can see, according to this, we are having some dry cells. We have a bulb there. Then these are connecting wires. Now it's the connecting wires that are metallic, and we want to test something. In case you complete the switch at AB, the bulb is likely to light, meaning that these wires made of metals have what we call electrical conductivity. So what we are examining here is not expansion. It's not thermal conductivity, because thermal conductivity is the conduction of heat. Ductility, no. Electrical conductivity. That's now the property which is under investigation. Remember to subscribe. Remember to share so that you may invite some friends to this powerful broadcast. All the best to the candidates of 2025 Kjsea. We are wishing you the best from Shifting Grades Online School. Remember our consultation line 0704 15 3366. So you can reach out through that for more of our programs, more so those who are continuing, students in JS. Let's look at number 7, ladies and gentlemen. The following are characteristics of a human tooth: one root, pointed edge, sharp edge. Both sharp and pointed. This is generally the characteristics of canines. Generally the characteristics of canines. All right. Now, which one of the following is true about the tooth? This one is used for what you call tearing, cutting into pieces. But the chewing now belongs to molars and premolars. So it's used for tearing flesh. Yeah, canines tearing flesh. Look at number 8. The main function of the finger-like projections found in the small intestines is to, these finger-like projections are usually called the villi. And their function is usually to increase surface area first for absorption, increasing surface area for absorption of digested food. Water and mineral salts, those ones are absorbed in the large intestines, not in the small intestines. Look at number 9, ladies and gentlemen. Substances in nature exist either as elements or as compounds. Which of the following is a compound? Copper, that's a metal. Iron is a metal. Sodium is a metal, and it exists on its own. But water is a compound. Water is usually a compound made of elements, and that is hydrogen and oxygen atoms. Number 10, some learners were controlling fire that was consuming a bush near their school. Which one of the following actions could not control the fire? Cutting off oxygen supply. Fire requires oxygen supply for it to thrive. Turning on the fire alarm. Cutting off the source. Cutting off the source of heat. We need a source of heat for fire to thrive, right? Moving the fuels away from the fire. So turning on the fire alarm, that one cannot stop the fire. That one cannot stop the fire. But when you look at the other events there, they can turn off, they can control, except B. Now, Teacher Peter used the apparatus shown below to conduct an experiment during a lesson. Look at the apparatus, ladies and gentlemen. Look at the apparatus keenly. And remember to stay around until we even predict what you call the paper 2 integrated science. So please remain around until you see us coming to the end of the Kjsea successively. What is the name of the above apparatus? You're supposed to be knowing the apparatus, either having met them physically or knowing how they are drawn. For example, this is a beaker. You can see it's a graduated beaker. Could be a plastic beaker, could be a glass beaker, but from the look of things, this is a beaker. A burette is narrow and it measures volumes up to 50 ml. Look at the calibrations on this particular instrument. It's going up to, 500 ml. So this cannot be a burette. A measuring cylinder is also narrow. That one measures also volumes, but it is usually a narrow one. Very narrow. This is how a measuring cylinder would look like. A bit narrow, but still used to measure volume. Then a conical flask, of course, that one has a conical base. Okay, it is concaved. In other words, Conical flask is flat bottomed, but it is conical in shape. So this cannot be conical. Let's look at number 12. Chipto came across the image below showing a certain process in the human reproduction. Which process is represented by the picture above? This is fertilization, the meeting of the female and the male gametes. You can see these are the sperms which are swimming towards the ovum. Yeah. So that's simply fertilization represented there. Look at number 13. Now, fires are classified into different categories based on the fuels involved. Which class of fire is caused by bare cables and electricity? That one is class C. Class C fire. Caused by bare cables and electricity. David, number 14, added salt to water and boiled the water. He noted that the water took longer to boil. Why do impurities increase the boiling point of water? Why do impurities interfere with the boiling point of water? They make the liquid evaporate faster, No, not really. They interfere with the particles' movement. Particles should increase their movement until they boil, until they change to gaseous state. Therefore, when you are having now other particles there, you'll find that now the movement of the liquid molecules is tempered with. Yeah, it's tempered with. Let's look at, look at option C. They increase the density of the liquid, not really. Then they decrease the amount of energy absorbed by the substance. Actually, if it was the other way around, the point could carry some weight. If they said in part D that it increases the amount of energy absorbed, because the particles added there are also absorbing some energy, such that the energy which is being supplied, some of it is being absorbed by the impurities added, hence making the liquid to absorb more heat before boiling. Use the diagram below to answer questions 15 and 16. Look at the question. You can already see a diagram there. I hope it's clear from that side. Can see thermometer, can see water out, water in, a beaker collecting some water there. This is a mixture of methanol and propanol, then around bottom of the flask, and some source of heat. Yeah, some source of heat. Look at number 15 now. What is the purpose of the condenser? In the diagram above, purpose of the condenser. This one is the condenser. Sometimes it's the Liebig's condenser. And this one, its work is to condense the vaporized liquid back to liquid form, to heat, to absorb impurities, to cool the vapor back to liquid state, to cool the vapor back into liquid state. In other words, to condense. The work of a condenser is to condense. That's why we have option C being the most appropriate in number 16. Apart from the mixture of propanol and methanol, which of the following mixtures can also be separated using the method above? All right, this method, first of all, is called fractional distillation, whereby two liquids which are miscible but having close but different boiling points are separated such that one boils before the other. So we should look for a mixture which is two miscible liquids with different but close boiling points. And that's why B, ethanol and water now become the most appropriate answers. Yeah, not salt and water, not acetone and chloroform, not paraffin and water. Actually, paraffin and water are not even miscible. So we talk about option B being the most appropriate. Look at 17, ladies and gentlemen. Question 17. Question 17. The following are objects that possess kinetic energy, except, you know, kinetic energy is the energy possessed by substances that are in motion. Substances that are in motion. And therefore, according to what we can see here, which one is not having motion? A raised hammer. Look at that. A raised hammer. Moving hair, falling water, windmill. Windmill is being rotated. Windmill is being rotated, so it has kinetic energy. Falling water is already in motion. Moving air is already in motion. But a raised hammer, you know, you can just raise it. You know, you can raise the hammer, but you just hold it up there. So when you've raised it, it is possessing what we call gravitational potential energy. But until it is in motion, then it doesn't possess kinetic. So now the right answer there becomes A. 18, ladies and gentlemen. Grade 9, learners had a discussion in their groups about the plant cell. Which organelles or which organelle has the function of enhancing the process of photosynthesis? That is the chloroplasts. Organelle, you know that a nucleus controls the functions of the cell. Chlorophyll is not even an organelle. It's just a green coloring matter. The plants, and it aids in photosynthesis. Look at 19. Which statement correctly describes cross-pollination? It is the transfer of grains from anther to stigma of same flower. Cross-pollination, no. Anther to stigma of a different flower of a different plant. Different flower, different plant. Let's continue weighing all the options until we come up with the right one. From anther of one plant to the stigma of another flower, but of the same species. Look at that. Same species, but now it is from the stigma, from the anther to the stigma of another flower. Another flower. But of the same species. Stigma of one flower to the anther of another flower of the same species. No, it should be movement from the anther, sorry. So now this one becomes wrong. Look at that. You can't move pollen grains from the stigma. It should be from the anther to the stigma, because anther is the male part, while stigma is the female part of the flower. It's good for you to know that when you talk about self-pollination is the movement of pollen grains from the anther to the stigma of the same flower, or from the anther of one flower to the stigma of another flower in the same plant. So if, for example, if I use this one, if we have a flower here, then pollen grains fall to the stigma of a different flower, but now it is the same tree. That is still self-pollination. Or from the anther to the stigma of the same flower, it is still self. But now for us to talk about cross, it has now to move from the anther of a flower to the stigma of another flower of a plant of the same species. So in this case now, we mark C the most appropriate answers. 20. Now the experiment shown below was carried out by grade 9 learners. And one thing you're supposed to notice is that this paper is focusing so much on grade 9 work. Every time you're told grade 9 learners were doing this, so you should know that grade 9 work should not be taken lightly, something that we're supposed to be very serious with. So look at that. This is sodium hydroxide pellets. Now, it showed that this experiment, light is a raw material for photosynthesis, chlorophyll is necessary for photosynthesis, water is a raw material for photosynthesis, carbon dioxide is a raw material for photosynthesis. This is now to investigate that carbon dioxide, or rather carbon dioxide, is a necessity for photosynthesis. Reason being, the sodium hydroxide pellets are used to absorb any present carbon dioxide in the air within which this leaf has been tied. Therefore, all the carbon dioxide is absorbed by sodium hydroxide pellets. Then now, test for starch is carried out. And after that, we'll be able to confirm that the leaf didn't manufacture own food, because carbon dioxide that was there, the carbon dioxide that was there was absorbed by sodium hydroxide pellets. It's so good for you to know, in an experiment where light is being examined, we shall have the leaf wrapped by what you call, this must be transparent. Whatever is wrapped here must be transparent. So that light is allowed in, because it is not the factor which is under test. But now, for us to test light, now we wrap using a reflector like aluminium foil, which reflects light away. Once light is reflected away, then starch is tested. You also discover that photosynthesis didn't take place. So there are several measures that can be taken to confirm each of the factors required for photosynthesis is a necessity. Now, when a balloon is inflated with air, it takes the shape of the balloon. This is because gases occupy space, have definite shape, no definite shape, have mass. They have no definite shape. In other words, they take the shape of the container they are put in. Grade 9 learners were discussing the mode of nutrition in living organisms. Which one of the following is not a mode of nutrition? We have symbiosis, okay. We have holozoic, we have saprophytic, then autotrophism. I think now the main issue here now should be autotrophism, because the others are modes of autotrophic nutritions. The others are classified together. Look at 23, ladies and gentlemen. Which one of the following is not a remote sensing platform? Remote sensing, the use of what you call the use of waves, actually radio waves, not radio waves, but the use of electromagnetic waves to collect information and all that. We have satellites, ground-based cameras, we have drones, we have ship. Now the ship now is not a platform for what you call remote sensing. But the others, they use electromagnetic waves. The others use electromagnetic waves. This one uses light. Satellites can use even radio waves. And the drones, the same. An elephant, a rat, a zebra, and giraffes live in the same habitat. Identify which pair can have competition. Now, to have competition means maybe they are craving for the same food. Like rat and elephant, they don't consume the same things. But elephant and giraffe, they both feed on, they are both herbivores. So they both feed on shrubs. Yeah, they both feed on shrubs. Now, concave mirrors have several applications in daily life. Let's look at this wonderful question. Let me clean up here. Concave mirrors have several applications in daily life. The following are some of the uses, except they used, we are talking about concave, right? Used in barber shops for shaving. That's very true. Doctors during medical examinations of teeth. Very true. Then used on roads in sharp bends. On roads in sharp bends. Okay, that one. This one is an application of it. The driving mirrors are the concave ones, the convex one, because of the wide field of view, and also to manage big spaces like supermarkets. Used as solar concentrators. Very true. Solar cookers. Very true. Therefore, this is the exceptional use. That one is not for concave mirrors. Look at 26. Now, the image formed by a concave mirror is virtual. Look at that. It's virtual, upright, and magnified. The position of the object is. Now, I want us, instead of just answering that, we try and see. It means that the position, okay, when it is at capital F, the image formed is usually at infinity, between principal focus and center of curvature. Not really, that one should be just an inverted rail. At the pole, not really, we cannot have an object at the pole. But between the pole and the principal focus, we will have the image described above. Virtual, upright, magnified. Let's look at the number 26 this way. Let's look at it this way. We got a mirror here, concave. Then we draw the principal axis like that. But now with the principal axis, we can identify F and C. F and C. Capital C, capital F. This is what we are saying, eh? When the object is just upright at this point, when it's upright at this point there, we know that for the formation, we need very important rays, like a ray which is close and parallel to the principal axis. When it arrives at the mirror, it gets reflected through the principal axis. Goes through the principal axis like that. What about a ray of light which passes through C? It gets reflected through the same path. A ray of light through C, from the tip through C. Now, this ray will be reflected through the same path. Once it goes like this, it gets back through the same path. Such a ray will behave in such a manner. Okay, then when you look at the rays now after reflection, you can simply conclude that they are not about to meet anywhere in front of the mirror. Therefore, we prolong them backwards now, and behind the mirror, we're supposed to be using a dotted, should be dotted. Behind the mirror, it should be dotted. Dotted like that. Behind the mirror, rays are usually virtue. So you see where they are intersecting now to form a virtue image. And because it's intersecting at that point, it shall be upright. Look at it. Upright, virtue, behind the mirror, all the properties mentioned. So that is the proof. That is the proof. So you can take some 1 minute to confirm whether the characteristics you are mentioning are really for the position that we are talking about. It's so very good for you to know that in case you are told that an object was in front of a concave mirror between the center of curvature and the principal focus, what are the properties of the image formed? Run to a rough space and construct a ray diagram very quickly, then observe the behavior of the image. State the properties from there. Don't just memorize. Please master how to construct the ray diagrams, and from that, you shall be in a position. Ladies and gentlemen, you shall be in a very good position to state properties. Thank you. Look at 27 now. Kamau saw the sample. Kamau saw the sample while in a lab. What does the sample represent? This one means biohazard. It's a biohazard substance. 28. Akinyi crushed some purple cabbage leaves and added a little water to make juice. Now she used the juice to test if some household substances are acidic or alkaline. What did she use? What did she use the purple cabbage extract as? She used it as a pH indicator, not as a solvent, not as a solute, not as a catalyst. Monkey was using a microscope to observe a plant cell. Now he adjusted the knob that significantly changed the distance between the object, the objective lens, and the specimen to get a rough focus. Which part of the microscope did he use to get a rough focus? So he was not using the fine adjustment knob. He was using what we call the coarse adjustment knob. The coarse adjustment knob. The fine one is for the eyepiece and the specimen. Look at that. During a practical lesson, grade 7 learners wanted to heat water using a Bunsen burner. What is the correct way to handle a Bunsen burner in the lab? Of course, as you observe, as you handle a Bunsen burner, what you focus in most is what you call safety. So you focus on the safety. Safety. Are you safe? Are the other users of the lab also safe from the lab? From the most of this is a source of heat. So you're supposed to be very, very careful. Now, light it before turning on the gas. Leave the burner unattended for time. Light the burner using spark lighter and adjust the flame. Turn it on and place it close to your working area. I think the most appropriate answer is C, whereby you light the Bunsen burner using a spark lighter and adjust the flame. You adjust the flame. Adjust the flame. Section B, 40 good marks. 40 good marks. Grade 9 learners used the image below during their lesson on animal dentition. Just look at the dentition here. Look at the dentition. Look at that. Then we check now a few questions. Now, which animal dentition is represented? This one is what we call a pterodont. This is what we call a pterodont, whereby the teeth are of different shapes and sizes for different functions. Not homodonts, like fish, which have equal sizes and shapes of teeth. Now, list 2 animals that have the dentition. We have the dog. We have human beings, or rather man. Yeah, man in science is generally human beings. Human beings are herbivores. dogs are carnivores. You can also mention an omnivore, an herbivore. This omnivore, this is carnivore. You can also mention giraffe to represent the herbivores. State 3 adaptations of the animal's dentition listed above to their habitats. Listed above. Okay, if it's the dogs, for example, the dogs have carnassial teeth for slicing through flesh and crushing bones. They have chisel-shaped incisors for seizing prey and cutting flesh. They also have what you call long and sharp pointed canines for tearing flesh. So you can state as many adaptations of the teeth, as many as you can remember. As many as you can remember. Aha. The diagram below shows an experiment that was set up by grade 9 learners while investigating the changes that occur in substances. This is hydrated cobalt 2 chloride. For those who cannot see it clearly, I have read the name of the substance there. Cobalt hydrated cobalt 2 chloride. Then you are heating at this point. Yeah, there is some heat at that point. Then you can see a boiling tube. You can see an apparatus A. Then we have a colorless liquid being collected there. We have a beaker, ice cold water in that beaker. So that's generally the setup. Name the apparatus labeled A. That's a delivery tube. When you look at A, that's a delivery tube. A delivery tube. Yeah, that's a delivery tube. Now state the observations when hydrated cobalt 2 chloride was heated. Hydrated cobalt 2 chloride when heated changed the color from pink to blue. Changes color from pink to blue. Actually, the blue substance now is anhydrous. The hydrated cobalt 2 chloride changed the color or changes the color from pink to blue anhydrous cobalt 2 chloride. Blue anhydrous cobalt 2 chloride. Now, when the colorless liquid was added to cobalt 2 chloride. Now, in case you add it back, that will be the water. That's water. Remember, it has become anhydrous. So once you return the water, it had just lost water. We call it water of crystallization. So it had lost the water of crystallization, but when you add the water back, ladies and gentlemen, it shall get back to pink. So turns from blue to pink. So this now type of a change is what you call a temporary chemical. A temporary chemical change. A temporary chemical change. Yeah, it's a temporary chemical change. That's what you're supposed to understand. Temporary chemical because it's chemical because a substance is getting lost, but still temporary because when you return, it is easily reversible. It can just be reversed by adding back the chemical that was lost, which is water. State 3 characteristics of the change that occurred. This change can be reversed. Not easily reversed, but you can just say can be reversed. Can be reversed. Something else about the change. Something else about the change is that no new substance formed. No new substance formed. No new substance. No new substance. No new substance formed. No new substance formed. And again, when you look at it, there is change in mass. Okay, a new substance is formed, actually. Let's say a new substance is formed. Let me tell you why. New substance is formed because it is hydrated cobalt 2 chloride and hydrous cobalt 2 chloride. So new substance is formed. Change in mass. Change in mass. There is loss of mass because the water is having some mass and it gets lost. Let's look at the question in 33 now. Lucia is observing waves in a dam. The frequency of the wave is 1.74 hertz. Now, the crest to crest distance is 22.7 centimeters, and the crest to trough height is 5.2. Number one, or part A, how many complete waves are shown? How many complete waves are shown? Let's check. For you to identify waves or a complete wave, you must start. If you start from this point, you must move along the wave until you are at the same point and moving in the same direction. Therefore, when you move until you are at this position, that's 1. You move again, that's 2. You move again, that's 3. Then this now half. So 3.5, or the complete ones are just 3. So we have 3 complete cycles in that case. The other cycle is not complete. Now calculate the amplitude of the wave in meters. Amplitude, look at amplitude. The distance from the mean position to the highest point or to the lowest point possible. And from crest, from trough here, from here, look at that, crest to trough. So from crest to trough of 5.2, but now we need from the mean position to either trough or to the crest. Therefore, we take the 5.2 and we divide by 2, we get 2.6. Then now we say that this distance in meters shall be 2.6 divided by 100. You divide by 100. You can write it in standard form or otherwise. But the point is, you should understand, when we talk about from crest to trough, it is the whole of that distance. Yet amplitude is this distance alone, this one alone, or this one alone. So we have to divide that total distance by 2 for us to get what we call amplitude. Remember, our line is 07, 04, 15, 33, 66. So that's our line for your consultations. Part C. What is the wavelength in meters? Wavelength is usually distance between 2 successive crests, 2 successive troughs, or distance between any 2 points that are in phase. Crest to crest, 22.7. So 22.7 centimeters. The amplitude is 22.7 centimeters. This now has to be converted. That is centimeters, and it has to be converted. This one has to be converted by dividing again by 100. So we'll say 2.27 times 10 to the power of -1 meters. Yeah, you write meters well. So that is now the value. That is the value. That is the value of the wavelength in meters. Part D. What is the period of the waves? Period of the waves. What is period? Period is the time taken to cover a complete oscillation. And we usually say that there is a significant relation between periodic time and frequency. So we'll take 1 out of the frequency given. Periodic time equals to 1 over frequency. So frequency given is 1.74. 1.74. So when I compute this now on my calc, 1 divided by 1.74, I'll get 0.5747. seconds. What is the speed of the wave? There is what you call the general wave equation that says that velocity is given by frequency times lambda, f lambda. So now we can talk about f times 2.27 times 10 to the power of -1. So what does this give us? Multiplied by 0.227. This gives us a speed of, or a velocity of 39498. This is 9 meters per second. Yeah, that is the velocity, rather the speed of the particular wave. Now, when carrying out an experiment to test in number 34, the presence of starch in a leaf, the leaf, learners did the following. Give a reason for each of the following activities. Boiled the leaf. The leaf is usually boiled to stop any chemical reactions from taking place. To stop any chemical reactions from taking place. From taking place. Then we have now part B. Boiled the leaf in methylated spirit using a water bath. This is to remove chlorophyll and make it clear for observation, to remove photosynthesis. To remove chlorophyll, sorry. To remove chlorophyll and make it clear for observation. And make it clear for observation. Confirm whether you can, get us clearly from that side. But you can hear what you're saying, right? Clear for observation. Then washed the leaf. This is to rehydrate and soften it. To rehydrate and soften it. To rehydrate and to soften it. Now, Wambui came across the diagram below while studying animal cell. Animal cell, remember this is the A is the cell wall. Cell membrane, sorry. Animal cell doesn't have the cell wall. Cell membrane, this is the cytoplasm. Then B is the nucleus. Let's check the questions now. Name the parts labeled A, cell membrane, B, nucleus. Outline two differences between the animal cell and the plant cell. One of the differences is that the plant cell has the cell wall. The animal cell doesn't have the cell wall. A plant cell contains chloroplasts, while an animal cell doesn't contain chloroplasts. Remember, that is the organelles responsible for photosynthesis. We've talked about the cell wall, and in animal, no cell wall, among other differences. Let's check 36. Now, pressure exerted by an object depends on the area on which the force is acting. The picture below shows types of shoes: high heels and flat shoes in part B. Identify the best shoe for walking on a sandy ground. That should be type B. Explain your answer. B has a larger area of contact. Area of contact with the ground, which has sand, lowering the pressure exerted. Lowering the pressure exerted, hence as is in walking or easy walk, comfortable walk. So the walking is comfortable because the pressure exerted is being reduced. Unlike type A, which has very small area, hence the pressure, by the same weight, pressure should be very high. That way, somebody will sink on the sand, will sink more. You know, the other type, you will still sink, but now you sink more. You sink more with the type A. All right, look at that 7, ladies and gentlemen. 2 reasons why copper is used in making electrical wires. 1, copper is a good conductor of it. It's a good conductor of electricity, that is. It's a good conductor. It's also ductile, making it easy to stretch it into thin wires. So the thin wires required, copper is good because it's already ductile. So it's also cheap. Yeah, copper is cheap, so it's preferred. Now use the diagram below to answer questions that follow. This is a concave mirror, a curved mirror which is concave in nature. You can see an object between F and C. The object has been drawn and the image formed. What type of image is formed when an object is placed between the center of curvature beyond the center of curvature of the mirror, of a concave mirror, when it is beyond center of curvature? So this one, we are not asked about this one now. We asked about another one in case it's placed beyond at a point like that one. You will need very quickly rays of light. That one goes through F. Then if it's through F, it becomes close and parallel to the principal axis. So you see the two are intersecting here. The two are intersecting at this point. So the image is real. The image, what type? The image is real. The image is real. Type of image. It's a real image, though it has other properties like inverted, diminished, that is smaller than object, among other properties. What does F stand for? Capital F, when dealing with mirrors and thin lenses, is for principal focus. Principal focus, or the focal point. Yeah, or the focal point. Now, Masai forgot some nails. Masai is the name of a person, sorry, not a tribe. Not Masai. Masai forgot some nails outside while returning his toolbox into the house. Now, the following day, he observed that a brown substance had formed on the nails. Name the brown substance that formed. This is what we call rust. And actually, this is iron 3 oxide, hydrated iron 3 oxide. When oxygen and iron mix in the presence of water, you know, we can form iron 3 oxide, which is a solid, and there's no problem. But now when there is presence of water, it becomes hydrated iron 3 oxide, which is now the rust. State the conditions necessary for the formation of the brown substance. Oxygen is one of the requirements. Then moisture or rather water. Moisture is another requirement. Finally, state 2 signs and symptoms that affect the human menstrual cycle that affect. You know, it's not effects. We are not asked effect of the menstruation cycle. We are told to state conditions, okay, signs and symptoms of conditions that affect. Signs and symptoms of conditions that affect the menstruation cycle. And from research, we know that there are some irregularities, some other physical signs like weight gain, difficulty in losing weight, fertility issues, painful periods, chronic pelvic pain. These are things known well by girls, but you can research more on the same. So thank you so much for following. All the best in your Kjsea. See you next time as we project the paper 2. Thank you. Sawa kwa